The richest billionaire in the country, Gideon, walks into a convenience store to buy cigarettes, unaware that danger is looming. While borrowing a lighter, a robber suddenly bursts in. Gideon quickly calls the police, but no one answers despite his repeated attempts. The robber notices Gideon making the call and knocks him out. Gideon offers his wallet, saying the money inside is enough for the robber to live comfortably for half his life. But then the robber realizes the man on the magazine cover is standing right in front of him, Gideon, the richest man in the country. Just as the robber is about to attack, Gideon's bodyguard rushes in, a struggle breaks out, and during the fight, the robber fires his gun, the bodyguard is hit and collapses, the robber takes the chance to flee. Grief-stricken, Gideon grabs the phone, now finally connected to the police, and yells in anger. Gideon arrives at the police station only to find complete chaos. The officers are apathetic, acting as if nothing matters. A female officer explains, the precinct receives no government funding. They don't even have proper ammunition, so how could they possibly fight criminals? Gideon thinks for a moment and makes a bold decision. He will buy the police precinct himself. If you won't do your job, I will. A month later, at a city council meeting, Gideon formally proposes to take over the 13th precinct. His statement stirs up heated discussions. The mayor smirks, but Gideon doesn't back down. As far as I know, you owe $90 million in police pension funds. I'm offering $100 million, enough to cover the debt, with $10 million left to upgrade weapons. The mayor, tempted but still defiant, responds, a civilian can't run a police department. Gideon's reply sends chills down his spine. If you refuse, I'll run against you in the next election and fund my own campaign. The mayor falls silent. News of Gideon buying the precinct spreads rapidly, and his company's stock soars. Soon, the 13th precinct is equipped with state-of-the-art technology, stunning the entire police force. A call to assemble rings out. Gideon, now the new boss, assigns tasks. Capture the man who killed his bodyguard within 72 hours. The 13th precinct has 13,289 officers and serves 2,869,121 residents, meaning each officer is responsible for 215.9 people, a nearly impossible task. But Gideon is determined to make the impossible possible with technology. He introduces new software he developed, an app that allows citizens to report crimes in real time from anywhere in the district and instantly generates the fastest interception routes. Equipment is upgraded as well, a new bulletproof vest capable of withstanding any projectile traveling at 30,000 meters per second, 50 times stronger than standard vests. Stun guns using cutting-edge nanotech can drop a target instantly. Dozens of new police cars arrive, built with reinforced alloy frames, powerful engines, and 16 turbochargers. No criminal could easily escape. With everything ready, officers are divided into action teams. Gideon activates the system, and the screen shows patrol units spread across the district. Soon, a report comes in, and a patrol car races to the scene, only to find a kid sitting on the ground. He had just seen the ad and wanted to test if the system was real. Meanwhile, Officer Teresa receives another alert. The system sends a photo of the suspect, and she locates him. He runs, but the system recalculates a new route instantly. Just when he thinks he's escaped, Teresa cuts him off with her car, knocking him down. Seeing only a female officer, he attacks, but she subdues him immediately. From report to capture, less than 3 minutes. Perfect. Next, they must catch the robber who killed the bodyguard. Gideon assigns the mission to Teresa. If she catches him in 3 days, she earns a promotion. Gideon explains that the suspect fled in a white car, but there are 77,000 white cars in the city. After filtering, they narrow it down to 6 vehicles. The key is using a drone to monitor all 6 around the clock. They identify Andre. When police arrive at his house, he flees through alleyways and escapes. Luckily, Gideon, controlling the drone, locates him, leading officers to an abandoned building. Suddenly, Andre shoots and injures an officer. The criminal remains at large, and a cop is down. Gideon faces harsh criticism. The mayor pressures him to step down, but Gideon insists no cop ever walks away without a scratch. Still, the mayor doesn't let up. Gideon knows he must catch the killer to hold his ground. Learning from failure, Gideon upgrades the drones with stun guns. Teresa hires street informants to report Andre's whereabouts. Soon, new leads emerge. Gideon analyzes the data, tracking Andre's locations from 4 hours ago, 3 hours ago, 2 hours ago, and finally pinpoints the target. The chief is stunned. Brilliant. A drone patrols outside and spots a gang fight. One thug notices the drone and fires, but it dodges. While the criminal reloads, the drone zaps him with a stun gun. It then identifies another target, Andre. Both men run, but the police close in. One surrenders. Andre slips away. Teresa uses the tracker to give chase. In a tense moment, Andre jumps a fence and hides in a house. Teresa approaches but is surrounded by dozens of thugs, forcing her to wait for backup. A fellow officer fires a flashbang into the house, flushing Andre out, only for him to grab a young woman as a hostage. The standoff is intense. Gideon assures Teresa the stun gun won't hurt the hostage. She understands, fires the stun gun at Andre, catching him off guard. She fires again. Andre collapses. Teresa's achievement earns her a promotion to chief inspector. The next day, Gideon makes the front page again, causing downloads of his app to skyrocket. Now, not just the people of District 13 but people across the entire country are using it. Will Gideon buy up even more police precincts next? Gideon hosts a live stream. He smashes a window with a bat, then opens his app and taps the alert button. 10 seconds later, police officers arrive at the scene. Yes, this is Gideon advertising his own app. He's determined to use technology to bring criminals to justice, though many still slip through the cracks. At that very moment, a pharmacy is robbed. Gideon and Teresa rush to the scene and quickly spot the thief's car. Just as expected, the car crashes into a roadside bench and speeds into a park, striking a little girl before fleeing, leaving her mother sobbing in agony. Seeing this, Gideon is racked with guilt. The mother's desperate eyes pierce his heart. Furious, he orders his team, capture the criminal at all costs. They quickly identify the thief as Jack, a repeat offender. This is his fifth heist, always stealing anesthetics. Jack is cunning, wearing mesh gloves and leaving no fingerprints. The only clue is a discarded glove found by a bystander. A K-9 unit tracks the scent to an abandoned house. Suddenly, the dog becomes frantic, with 2 officers chasing after it. Soon after, they find a car engulfed in flames, Jack's car. But the dog senses nothing, and despite officers shouting warnings, it charges ahead. The car explodes, costing the dog a leg. Gideon brings the wreck back for inspection and discovers the car was illegally modified. Outside standard records, there are only 4 chop shops in the area. Find the one who worked on this car, and they'll find Jack. Cut to a mechanic grinding car parts when the power suddenly cuts. He turns around to find police aiming guns at him. Under Teresa's interrogation, he quickly confesses Jack is an amateur street racer with a modified red sports car. The mechanic fears Jack's revenge. A racer like Jack would be hard to catch, but Gideon has a plan. He heads to his company's R&D department, where a scientist unveils a prototype drone. A red sports car soon appears on the road. Patrol units identify the target. Gideon warns them not to engage too soon, but Jack senses danger and hits the gas. A high-speed chase ensues. Using his driving skills, Jack shakes off the patrol cars. Fortunately, Teresa picks up the pursuit, but when Jack hits a pedestrian, she is forced to stop and help, losing him again. Just then, a drone locks onto Jack, sending live footage back to base, but moments later, the signal cuts out, the drone loses contact, and Jack slips away once more. Teresa analyzes the situation. They didn't lose because of poor driving, they lost because Jack was reckless while police had to consider public safety. That evening, Gideon visits Teresa's home. Watching her son play with toy cars sparks an idea. He leaves abruptly and seeks out the scientist to modify a motorcycle. When Jack strikes again, Gideon unleashes his trump card, 8 specially equipped motorcycles. They coordinate to block Jack's escape route, dropping a strip of spikes at the perfect moment. Jack's car spins out and crashes. Forced to flee on foot, he is hit with a stun gun and collapses. Later, Gideon and Teresa visit the injured girl in the hospital. Her mother thanks Gideon over and over upon hearing the thief has been caught. Teresa asks her ex-husband to pick up their son. He warns her. The mayor has set up a special task force to investigate District 13, and I'm the leader of that task force. Seeing the flaws in the system, Gideon had already purchased the 13th precinct, but just then, 5 armed criminals rob a jewelry store in his jurisdiction. Police catch one, Pete, but no matter how they question him, he doesn't confess or slip up. The case stalls. The captain says without evidence they must release him, but Gideon insists that's not an option. Cut to the lab. Gideon converts an astronaut's seat into a lie detection chair, made specifically for Pete. Teresa plays a live video. When Pete sees familiar locations, the device picks up his reactions. Teresa taunts him relentlessly until, unable to bear the pressure, Pete finally confesses. Armed with this intel, a tactical unit storms the hideout, but it's empty. Based on clues, Teresa deduces they've been making homemade explosives. They left in such a rush they didn't even destroy the map on the wall. Under UV light, she finds fingerprints, narrowing down their next target. Police set up an ambush. Soon, a truck appears. Suddenly, a black SUV blocks its path. 4 criminals use metal shields to trap the truck. The driver panics, slamming the gas, but the truck won't start. Teresa calls for backup, but the criminals open fire. She diverts their attention, tricking them. When bullets failed to penetrate the truck, they switched to Plan B, detonate the truck. Thanks to the police dashcam, technicians quickly locate the detonator and disable it remotely. The 4 criminals are subdued, and another tough case is closed. That night, a woman is withdrawing cash when a man appears behind her, pulling out a gun. She flees, but the man doesn't take any money. Instead, he pulls out a note and shoots it onto the ATM screen. The note reads, "I want to meet Gideon." As expected, he is brought to the precinct. The next day, Teresa mentions the case. She explains that this man had tried dozens of times to reach Gideon through the app but kept being redirected to District 21, where they dismissed him as insane. Desperate, Robert came to District 13 and deliberately committed a crime. Gideon meets him immediately. Robert says his daughter was harmed by a dangerous drug, but he has no way to bring down the dealers. To protect other kids, he had no choice but to take this gamble to reach Gideon. After Gideon learned the whole story, he immediately took the case. However, the chief warned him that taking down a drug network is harder than reaching the sky. Teresa then took Gideon to observe a drug deal in action. The driver was the buyer, a lookout stood by to take the cash but never touched the drugs, and the one making the delivery was just a kid. The real drug boss simply stayed home counting money. An idea struck Gideon. He brought Teresa to the lab, where the scientist sprayed a fine tracking powder on cash. Anyone who touched it would be traceable. He also provided special glasses that revealed the powder's trail. By following the path of the money, they could locate the drug ring's hideout. Teresa ordered her team to track the network but not to interfere, chase, or interrupt any deals. All patrol officers wore the glasses. Anyone with powder would be detected immediately. Pedestrians, couples strolling, parked cars, every bit of data streamed back to the station. Tech expert Hamilton analyzed the patterns, and the densest trail on the map marked the hideout. The property belonged to a man named Marcos, previously charged twice but never convicted. Gideon shared the news with Robert, who was deeply grateful. Gideon also resolved Robert's vandalism case. He just needed to pay a fine and attend an educational session. Soon after, a SWAT team surrounded the house. Breach. 3 people inside froze. 2 women dropped to the floor, while Marcos remained calm. Officers quickly discovered a large stash of drugs in the warehouse, clear evidence. But just as they prepared to celebrate, a twist. Marcos claimed the warehouse wasn't his. Hamilton checked and confirmed Marcos was telling the truth. The warehouse was outside his property line, owned by an elderly woman. Just like that, the case hit a dead end. Later that night, Teresa got a call from Robert's wife. She said Robert, furious that Marcos escaped charges, had gone alone to confront him. Teresa rushed to the station. Hamilton immediately began a wide search and soon pinpointed Robert's location. At an abandoned building, a drone spotted Robert's car. An open ammo box on the seat signaled danger. 3 officers entered the pitch-black interior. Turning on lights would alert the suspect, but without light, they couldn't see. The special glasses switched to night vision, allowing them to locate their target. Officers stormed in. The situation became a hostage standoff. Hamilton suggested tasing both men, but the chief refused, fearing for the hostages' safety. Gideon asked Teresa for alternatives. Hamilton streamed the office's camera feeds to Teresa, who used the data to pinpoint Marcos's position. Marcos was swiftly taken down. Mission accomplished. Days later, 2 thugs stormed a lottery shop and, without a word, held an old man at gunpoint. The old man, a gambling addict, owed them $25,000. Suddenly, he created a distraction and bolted, running straight to the police station. Gideon was stunned. Dad. Yes, this drunken gambler was Gideon's father. He had fled to his son's precinct to escape the thugs. Joe explained that his football betting deal with mob boss Battaglia had collapsed, and Battaglia was demanding repayment. Betting always involves wins and losses, and Joe hadn't expected South Korea to beat Portugal. Joe offered to cooperate with police and testify against Battaglia, but Gideon was skeptical, believing Joe had borrowed money from Battaglia to gamble. The two argued heatedly until Teresa separated them. Gideon no longer trusted his father, but Teresa reminded him Battaglia was tied to countless crimes, drugs, theft, murder. Catching him would save lives. Gideon agreed after some hesitation. Evidence showed Battaglia had stolen a shipment of diamonds a month earlier. Joe would need to pay him $25,000 up front to earn his trust. Gideon quickly saw through him. Joe was after more money. Gideon went back to the lab and worked with the scientist to create a carbon nano watch with GPS and a hidden mic, just in case Joe tried to run. The watch was strapped on Joe's wrist. Everything said, Joe headed to Battaglia's bar. His goons immediately attacked him. Joe handed over the money, but Battaglia sneered. Even so, Joe wouldn't leave alive. As the henchmen moved in, Joe blurted out there was a diamond buyer. Battaglia halted them. Gideon stopped Teresa from intervening. In the end, Joe secured a $500,000 diamond deal. Meanwhile, Teresa urged Gideon to forgive his father. He's still your dad. If something happens to him, you'll regret it. Soon after, the chief reported back to Gideon. When Gideon reached for the money to find Joe, he was shocked. It was gone. He immediately suspected Joe. Hamilton tracked the watch to the basement. Gideon instantly understood. Even the scientist admired Joe's cunning. He had removed the watch in just 20 minutes in the tool room. Cameras hadn't caught him. Gideon realized Joe must have found a blind spot and slipped out. Gideon ordered searches at airports and train stations. Teresa calmed him down, believing Joe wouldn't run. He'd finish the deal. He wouldn't want to spend the rest of his life hunted by the mob. The problem was they didn't know the meeting location. Gideon said it didn't matter. They'd track Battaglia, but Teresa warned that Battaglia was extremely cautious, changing cars multiple times and using tricks to throw off pursuers. Gideon deployed stealth drones, silent, with adaptive camouflage invisible at night. When 4 cars left Battaglia's base, the operation began. Everything went smoothly. Teresa identified Battaglia's car, which arrived at an amusement park. Joe was there. Teresa lay in wait. Suddenly, Joe turned on Battaglia. Furious, Battaglia pulled a gun. After tense negotiations, Battaglia agreed to the deal. As the diamonds were about to change hands,
drop your weapon! Come here! Guillaume Moretti, you're under arrest!
Battaglia was captured, but Joe vanished. Later, Gideon opened up to Teresa about his childhood and the many times his father had tricked him. That day, Gideon was attending his company's tech showcase, unaware that an assassin had infiltrated the event. The shooter pulled a gun and fired at Gideon, knocking him to the ground. Teresa immediately rushed in and subdued the assassin. Fortunately, Gideon was wearing a bulletproof vest and was unharmed, but those who operated outside the law weren't done yet. In an abandoned warehouse, 4 criminals gathered. A mysterious man gave orders over the phone. When one of them complained the job was too difficult and demanded more money, an AK rifle was aimed at him. He was shot dead on the spot. The remaining 3 fell silent. Elsewhere, a masked man posted a video online, declaring war on Gideon. He vowed to expose Gideon's true face and destroy him. Within moments, the media was all over the story. The mayor called immediately. The chief advised Gideon to lay low, so Teresa took him to a secluded villa and guarded him around the clock. Meanwhile, Hamilton received a report. Armed robbers had stormed a building, all wearing identical masks. They planted a suspicious bag resembling a bomb. The police deployed, but with so many potential explosives, they had to wait for the bomb squad. At the same time, Teresa noticed a car parked outside the villa. As expected, 4 armed men emerged. Gideon hurriedly hid Teresa in his secret room and sent a distress signal, but the attackers moved quickly, cutting off all communications and jamming signals. A loud explosion shook the villa. They had found an entry point and were breaking through the steel door. Gideon remembered the cleaning robot in the house. He modified it and sent it beyond the jammed area to transmit a distress signal. Back at headquarters, Hamilton received numerous reports. Masked men were driving erratically all over District 13. Bruce intercepted one vehicle. A man removed his mask and ran. Bruce chased him but lost him. Hamilton realized these masked men weren't targeting the police. They were creating chaos. Whenever patrol cars approached, the suspects abandoned their vehicles and fled. Their true purpose remained unclear. Meanwhile, Gideon's robot reached the signal zone, only to be smashed by a criminal. With the door about to be breached, Gideon resorted to his last card. He had secretly installed a global surveillance system on all new model cars. Teresa warned that this system could never fall into the wrong hands, but for now, they had to survive the imminent attack. Gideon grabbed a power cell. At the same time, the chief received a call from the bomb squad. The bags weren't bombs, just decoys. Hamilton suddenly realized the masked gang's actions were all a distraction. The chief ordered Bruce to move immediately. Through surveillance, Gideon saw the attackers fall silent. Bruce and Tasha had arrived, unaware of the danger. Entering would be fatal. Gideon tried to trigger an alarm through the robot, but its screen was destroyed, so he typed 9 letters instead. Teresa recognized the military code. Tasha noticed the signal. Bruce caught on, and together they slipped inside, tossing flashbangs.
They need our help.
Murphy, get down!
Teresa charged out, gunning down the attackers.
Might be time to look for a new place.
But the masked mastermind reappeared.
Game on.
Hamilton suddenly recognized him, Danny Hobby, one of the world's top hackers and her former colleague. Interrogating the captured criminals revealed that they were supposed to rendezvous with Danny. The chief decided to lead the operation himself. A convoy of police vehicles moved out, drones buzzing overhead. Suddenly, a pickup truck rammed the chief's car. Teresa rushed to help and noticed all the traffic lights were green. Danny had hacked the city's traffic system. Accidents erupted everywhere, gridlocking the city. Danny knew Hamilton too well, leaving her stumped. Teresa led her team, but their vehicles failed. None would start. Gideon deployed drones, but they turned back, attacking the police. Gideon and the scientist raced in with jamming devices, bringing down 2 drones. After intense effort, Hamilton pinpointed Danny's location on a moving train. They raced to the station, jumped aboard, and found his server, but the train went dark. When the lights returned, Danny was aiming a gun at Gideon. The train suddenly accelerated, throwing Danny off balance. Teresa fired, taking him down. Hamilton had overridden the train system. Gideon then uncovered multiple plots on Danny's computer, urgent threats. He and Teresa rushed to the scene. En route, Gideon called the mayor, urging him to cancel the press conference, but the event went on. An automated weapon took aim at the mayor. Gideon and Teresa arrived just in time.
Chicago police, everybody down! Down!
That's the full story of APB. Did you enjoy this series? On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate it? Let us know in the comments below. Thank you for watching. See you next time.